Hey everybody, it's Cargo Bike Life. Today we're doing a video on how to adjust brakes, specifically V-brakes. This is from Manny's Second Amendment. He requested this video to adjust the brakes on his bicycle. So the first thing we're going to do for the V-brake is I want you to release them. Simply push them in, pull the little tube up, and release the brakes. The next thing I want you to do is get your Allen wrench. This is a 5mm, and I want you to release the brake cable. You do not have to remove the crimp cap to do this. Do not remove that crimp cap. You need that crimp cap. Simply turn this bolt, freeing the cable, and take the cable out. The next thing I want you to check for is, does this cable move freely through the housing? Push up on it. If it's not sliding easily through the housing, that could be your first problem. These housings can get corrosion in them. If there's corrosion in the housing, it will keep the brake cable from moving properly. But you see how easily this one moves in the housing. You can even put tension on it and pull the brake lever to see it move. Make sure that that has free movement. If that's good, then you know your cable is the way it's supposed to be. The next thing I want you to check is for movement in the brake arm. Does it have some spring back? Like when you push it forward, does it spring back? That spring action is controlled by these little screws, and we'll get to that during adjustment. But you want to check that to make sure. Like, see how that one barely has any spring back? And we'll get to that. That's part of the adjustment process. The other thing that you need to check for is that these are properly greased. What you want to do is just turn this bolt right here. Again, it's a 5mm Allen. Just release this bolt, unscrew it all the way. And then remove it. And what there should be on this braze on is some grease. And as you can see, there's none. That is a metal part. Inside of here, inside of your brake arm right there, that is a metal part. In order for it to move freely and function properly, it needs to have grease on it. So when you remove it, if there's no grease, what you want to do before you is wipe it down. You can see there's hardly any grease. What you want to do, just get some grease. You want to grease that up. Doesn't have to be a lot of grease, but you want some grease on there. And when you slide this back on, you see this little pin sticking out the back. That's connected to your spring inside of here that this screw pushes on. And you'll see there's 3 holes. And what you want to do when you always start is put it on the middle hole. So when you slide it in, make sure it goes into that middle hole. Put your bolt back in. Tighten it back up. You don't have to crank on it really hard, just snug it. Make sure that this still moves freely. Okay? Do the same thing to the other side. Once again, there's no grease. And just because you buy a new bike from somewhere doesn't mean that the person who put it together actually knew what they were doing. Or that just because it came out of a brand new box doesn't mean that that factory put on any grease. They may not have. I want to point out something while we got this off. There's washers in here. And this one right here is coned. It's rounded. I call it a wobble washer. And what it does is when you loosen this bolt to adjust your brake pad to your rim, it allows the brake pad to move back and forth. Because if your brakes squeak when you hit them, that means you need to give them toe in. And what toe in is you'll loosen this and you'll adjust this brake pad so that the front of the pad hits the rim first. And we'll go over that in the adjustment process. But I wanted to point out that's where the wobble washer is. And just put this back on there. Make sure it gets in that middle hole. Put your bolt back in. Make sure it still moves freely. Okay, that part's done. Now, what we're going to check for next is where the brake pad hits the rim. And another thing you have to check for is the wear line on the brake pad. Make sure the brake pads are nice and thick and not wore down. You'll see little grooves in the pad. Those two grooves in the pad, when the pad's worn down to where those two grooves are no longer, what do I want to say, where you can't put something in them like your fingernail, that means the pad needs to be replaced. These pads are very low. They need to be replaced. I just don't have replacement ones right at this moment. Now what we're going to do is we're going to push this brake up there, and you can see the pad is not touching the entire rim. In fact, as I run my finger along the bottom, I can feel that the pad is not touching the bottom of the rim. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a 6mm. This one's not 6, it's still just 5, so everything on this one is 5. Sometimes they'll be 5, sometimes they'll be 6. And we're going to loosen this. Now once we've got that loose, the pad can move up and down, it can move side to side. What I like to do is just push the pad up there so I can see it contacting the entire rim sidewall, but not so high that it's going to touch the tire. It never needs to touch the tire. It only needs to engage the sidewall of the rim. Putting a little pressure on it with your thumb, you will slightly tighten this. If you tighten it too far, you'll see the pad will actually move. You don't want it to move. Just tighten it so that it stays in place when you release it. Then what you have to do is you have to hold this pad while you tighten it all the way. And what's going to happen is as you turn that screw, the pad's going to want to turn with it. So you have to apply downward pressure with your thumb and not allow it to move. And you don't have to crank it on super, super tight. Just good and snug. Then check the alignment again. Now, I hope you can see that. There's just a little bit of, let me get my flashlight on it. This might help. You can see there's just a little bit of the top of the rim, like a little silver line going across the top of that brake pad. And if you run your finger underneath it, you can feel that the pad is even with the bottom of the rim, the sidewall of the rim, and that's what you want. Then you're going to adjust the other side. Now this side is perfectly aligned already, so this side's good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our brake cable, we're going to put our noodle in there, our little brake noodle there. We're going to put this cable housing back in to where it goes, and we're just going to pull the brakes up against the rim. We're going to pull the cable, but we're not going to pull it super tight, because you're going to need a little gap on each side where that pad is not touching the sidewall of the rim, because you don't want your brakes locked up on there when you tighten this cable. So what I always do is pull it up tight, and I'm holding the cable with my fingers. Don't grab the crimp cap because you'll pull it off. Just grab the cable, just gently pull it with your fingers, and then once it engages the sidewall of the rim, once you feel everything is tight, release it back just a little bit. Just let it slide back just a little bit so that when you're done tightening it, you have a gap on each side. Just sit there and tighten it back up. Oops. Almost messed up there. Gotta make sure your little rubber housing is up there holding the noodle. Goes over the tip of the noodle. So we'll just do it again. You got to make sure that nut gets snug down there, because if it doesn't, when you pull the brake lever, this cable will just slide through. But don't turn it so much that you break the bolt. You don't want to break that, because then your brakes won't work at all. That's good. It's snug. Now what we got, let me get the flashlight again. I hope you can see that, is a little gap, but you'll know, if you can't, maybe you can't see it, but the gap over here is more than the gap over there. So what you want to do next is you just want to, if you don't have your bike in a work stand, like I didn't do this in a work stand because I realized not everybody has one, but you're going to lift up and you're going to spin your wheel and you're going to listen, and you can hear that this side is rubbing. So what you're going to do, take a flat tip screwdriver, actuate your brake a couple times, and then spin it. Now you can still hear rubbing. Now we have to check it to see where it's rubbing. Okay, The reason it's rubbing is because I didn't give enough. I pulled too tight with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen it again. And I'm going to release some more of the cable and then retighten it. Now I'm going to check. Now I've got some more space. Now I'm going to tighten it back up. Okay, I'm going to actuate my brake. And now watch as the brakes go. You see this side is moving much quicker. It's moving in quicker than this side. Now I'm going to spin my wheel again. Now there's no rubbing because I allowed some space between my pads and the rim. I had it too tight. Now what I'm going to do, that's where this screw comes into play. As you screw this screw in, it creates more tension on the spring inside the brake arm. And as you apply more tension, what it's going to do is it's going to pull that brake pad closer to the rim. So what you got to look at is your spacing on each side. If one's further than the other, the one that's further away is the one that you'll tighten. And you simply just have to give it a little bit of a turn. Remember, with these, you don't want to screw it way in because that's going to put a super amount of tension on it. It's little micro turns in and out that adjust the brakes. Now we're going to give the brake lever a squeeze. Now we're going to look. And what you really want is for both of these to be moving equally. Not one side going way in, the other side just barely moving. You want them to be moving equally. If you watch them as I squeeze, they're both moving equally. Spin the wheel. I don't hear any rubbing. Hit the brake lever. Release it. And I like to use a flashlight to see how much space I have. And I have now an equal distance of space between the pad and the rim on each side. But now, if you'll notice here, I adjusted that brake pad, but now that it's all adjusted, it looks like it's very close to the tire, but it's not touching the tire. And sometimes after adjustment, even though you adjusted the brake pad, sometime after the cable gets put back on there, you might have to loosen that, move it down or up a little bit on either side. And the closer you move the brake pads before they actuate the rim, the stronger your brakes are going to be, so the quicker they're going to apply. And you have to think about that. If you set them real close to the rim, so the minute you give that handle a squeeze, they're gonna grab quickly. They're just gonna grab, and you're gonna come to a stop really quick. It's personal preference. I like my pads on a V-brake set very close to the rim because when I actuate them, I don't ever want the lever to go more than halfway back to engage my brakes. And I always set mine extremely close. But to do that, you have to make sure also that your wheel is true. If your wheel is not true, then it will always rub. But that's how you adjust V-brakes. It's very simple. And it can be frustrating when you're first learning how to do it. But it just takes a little practice and a little time, like anything else in life. With a little practice and a little time, you can learn to easily adjust them. And as you use your bike and your pads wear down, because your brake pad material will wear down, you're going to have to keep adjusting them. You're going to have to keep bringing your brake cable in or using your barrel adjuster. But you're going to have to make sure that you keep adjusting them. If you adjust them and everything feels good, and let's say if you're riding a lot and a few months go by and you notice that you're having to pull the lever back further, check your pads. If they're wore, you're going to have to move them a little closer to the rim because the material's wearing off. That means if they were this thick when you bought them and then they wear down, and they're really thin, you're going to have to keep moving them closer and closer. And remember the wear lines. In the brake pad surface that engages the rim, there's 2 little slots. When those slots are gone, that brake pad is done with its life. You have to replace them. So I hope this helped you all out. And if there's any further questions or requests for other videos, just let me know. If you request a video, you may have to wait because I do work a full-time job, so I will help you out as much as I can. But this is Cargo Bike Life signing off. You all have a good day and ride safe.